Have you ever been working on something, like a big project, or maybe leading your team through a tough time, and you just feel like you need a little more clarity?
Yeah. Like you're going a mile a minute and you could really use a break to sort everything out.
Exactly. Well, Coach Ed Padalecki, he talks about this feeling of being pulled in every direction. And I don't know about you, but it really resonates with me. He suggests taking a kind of what he calls a staycation for deep thinking.
Yeah, that idea of stepping back, getting away from the everyday craziness just to let things settle and gain some real insight. It's brilliant.
It really is, especially when you think about, high-performing individuals like the folks listening right now. They're constantly on the go, but proactively creating space for that kind of deep reflection.
It's not just about avoiding burnout. It's a strategy for unlocking those insights that can truly elevate your game. And that's what Coach Padalecki's all about, helping people like you discover those insights and perform at their very best.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to be looking at some of Coach P's notes from Forge Virtue, along with Massimo Pigliucci's book, How to Be a Stoic.
And we can't forget the groundbreaking research on virtues across cultures by Dalsgaard, Peterson, and Seligman. It's really fascinating stuff.
Absolutely. We're going to pull out the core virtues from all of these sources and see how they apply to you, our listener, as a high-performing professional. So let's get started. Let's talk Stoicism.
All right. Massimo Pigliucci, in his book How to Be a Stoic, he lays out these 4 cardinal virtues that are like the bedrock of this ancient philosophy.
Mhm.
And, he really emphasizes Socrates' role in establishing these interconnected principles. It all starts with practical wisdom.
Practical wisdom sounds pretty straightforward, but Massimo explains that it's so much deeper than just, being intelligent. It's about making choices that truly make your life better.
Right. It's not just knowing what's important. It's understanding how to pursue those things in a way that works. For our listeners who are often dealing with the fast-paced, high-stakes world of business,
It's about applying good judgment in the real world, in the thick of it all. I'm curious, what are some of the common traps you see high performers fall into that practical wisdom could help them avoid?
that's a great question. I often see people getting stuck over-analyzing data, or maybe they're making rash decisions under pressure. Practical wisdom, from the Stoic perspective, it helps you navigate those situations by focusing on what truly matters in the long term.
So it's about making decisions that are aligned with your overall goals. That makes a lot of sense. Now, the next virtue is courage. And I think most people, when they hear courage, they think of physical bravery. But the Stoics, as Massimo points out, they had a much broader view.
Right. It's not just about, running into a burning building. It's about that inner strength, the moral fortitude to act in accordance with your principles, even when things get tough.
Especially when things get tough. Think about it, the courage it takes to speak up with a new idea, maybe one that's a bit risky, in your company, or to have those difficult conversations that are necessary but nobody really wants to have.
Exactly. It's about doing the right thing, even when it's hard. And that leads us to the third virtue, temperance, which, when you boil it down, is about self-control, isn't it? Being able to manage your desires and your actions so you don't go overboard.
Temperance. For our listeners, that might mean being mindful of their workload to avoid burning out, or maybe holding back in a competitive situation to stay true to their ethical values.
It's about finding that sweet spot, that sustainable balance in all areas of your life. And finally, we have justice.
And justice, from a Stoic perspective, is very practical, as Massimo explains. It's not about these grand theoretical ideas of fairness in society. It's about how you treat every single person you encounter, day in and day out.
Fairness, respect, recognizing the dignity of everyone in your professional and personal life, that's what Stoic justice is all about.
It's about your everyday ethical conduct, treating everyone with integrity. Now, there's this key belief from Socrates that Massimo highlights, the idea that wisdom is the most important good, and all other virtues, they flow from wisdom.
It's almost like wisdom is the compass,
Right.
right? Guiding all your other virtues. Because without a solid understanding of what's good and what's right, how can you effectively practice courage, temperance, or justice when you're faced with a complex situation? It really underlines how important continuous learning and self-reflection are, especially for high achievers.
So wisdom is the foundation. That's really insightful. Okay, so we've explored these Stoic virtues. Coach P also incorporates modern science into his work, drawing from Dalsgaard, Peterson, and Seligman's research. Their cross-cultural study provides a really interesting perspective on core virtues.
Yeah, they wanted to figure out if there were any universal virtue, qualities that show up across different cultures and traditions. They looked at all kinds of philosophical and religious texts, and what they found is pretty remarkable. There was a lot of overlap.
And they identified 6 core virtues that appeared consistently. They are courage, justice, humanity, self-mastery, wisdom, and transcendence. It's amazing how much alignment there is with the Stoic framework.
It really is. 4 out of the 6, courage, justice, wisdom, those are all directly from the Stoic cardinal virtues, which suggests that these qualities are pretty fundamental to human understanding of what it means to live a good life.
Absolutely. But this modern scientific perspective adds 2 more virtues to the mix: humanity and transcendence.
Right, humanity, which Coach P interprets as compassion for others. And for those in leadership positions, like many of our listeners, being able to empathize and genuinely care about your team, your colleagues, your stakeholders, that's crucial.
It's about kindness, generosity, building genuine connections. And then there's transcendence, which might sound a little, I don't know, lofty at first, but it basically means feeling connected to something bigger than yourself. Finding meaning and purpose beyond your own individual goals.
So it could be feeling like you're contributing to a greater mission through your work, or maybe through something you do in your free time, feeling connected to something significant beyond just your personal accomplishments.
Exactly. For an athlete, it might be the legacy they want to leave behind in their sport. For a coach, it could be the lasting impact they have on their athletes' lives.
Exactly. It could be a connection to nature, to a spiritual belief system, to your community, or to a cause you're passionate about. It's that feeling of being part of something larger than yourself that can bring a deeper sense of fulfillment.
It's about the bigger picture. So we've looked at these fundamental virtues through both the lens of ancient philosophy and modern science. And Coach Padalecki takes it a step further with his peak performance framework, which gives you a practical way to integrate these concepts into your daily life. He calls this active integration heroic activation, which I think is such a powerful term.
It really captures that sense of intentionality, of proactively embodying these virtues. And Coach P's framework is designed specifically for people who are striving for peak performance, like our listeners. It's about going beyond just understanding these virtues intellectually and actually living them.
Putting them into practice. So let's break down Coach P's definitions of these virtues within his framework. First up, wisdom. His definition builds on the Stoic concept, but he describes it as knowing the game you're in and how to play it well. For someone in the business world, that might be understanding their industry, their target market, the dynamics within their company.
What I find really insightful is his emphasis on defining your own personal set of virtues and making decisions that align with those core values. Coach P really highlights that true wisdom isn't just about external knowledge. It's about having that internal clarity, knowing what truly matters to you, and acting accordingly.
It's about knowing yourself as much as it is knowing your field. And Coach P gives this great example of practicing wisdom, pausing before you respond to a challenging email. Taking that moment to breathe and reflect allows you to craft a response that's in line with your long-term goals and your values instead of just reacting emotionally.
Such a simple but powerful practice. All right, next in Coach P's framework, we have self-mastery. How does he define this within the context of peak performance?
Well, for Coach P, self-mastery is absolutely essential for consistent high performance. He emphasizes mastering the fundamentals of well-being: how you eat, how you move, your sleep habits, and your breath work.
These aren't just nice to haves. They're the basic building blocks that give you the energy and focus you need to perform at your best consistently. It's about taking control of your physical and mental state.
Exactly. You can't expect to be at your best if you're not taking care of your basic needs. And that brings us to courage. Coach P's perspective on courage is all about action, especially in a professional setting.
He talks about taking decisive action in all areas of your life, but especially in your work. It's about stepping outside your comfort zone, taking calculated risks, and actively working towards closing that gap between where you are now and your full potential.
It's about pushing past the fear of failure or what other people might think and embracing growth. So it's not just about being brave, it's about taking action.
Okay, the next virtue in Coach P's framework is love. And here, he beautifully brings together those scientific virtues of justice and humanity.
He defines love as treating both yourself and others with fairness, dignity, and compassion. It's about cultivating healthy relationships, building strong, supportive teams, and recognizing the inherent worth of every single person you interact with.
It's about creating a positive and collaborative environment. And he makes a really important point about how this kind of love is crucial for uniting teams and communities. Having that foundation of trust and mutual respect, which is built through this expansive understanding of love, that's what allows us to succeed together. Absolutely. Whether you're leading a team or working within one, that sense of connection is essential. And finally, we have transcendence.
So in Coach P's framework, transcendence is all about connecting with and contributing to something larger than yourself. He suggests that as you strive for personal excellence, you naturally start to look beyond your own self-interest. You become a positive force in your family, your community, the world at large.
He gives some practical examples like mentoring a colleague or volunteering your time to a cause you believe in. It's about aligning your actions with a purpose that goes beyond just your own needs and ambitions.
It's about making your work, your life, about something bigger than yourself. And that brings a whole other level of meaning to what you do.
What's so impactful about Coach Padalecki's peak performance framework is how he takes these, what might seem like abstract philosophical ideas, and turns them into actionable strategies for high-performing individuals. He doesn't just tell you that these virtues are good, he shows you how they play out in real life and how they contribute to achieving excellence.
So, for you, our listener, Coach Padalecki has a challenge. He wants you to think about these 5 virtues: wisdom, self-mastery, courage, love, and transcendence. Which one resonates most strongly with you right now at this point in your professional journey?
This is a great time to do a little self-assessment. Which of these virtues feels like a strength that you could really lean into? And on the flip side, which area might need a little more attention, a little more development?
Which one do you need to work on? And once you've identified that, the next step is to pick just one of these virtues to focus on intentionally today. Think about how you can embody that virtue in your work, in how you interact with others, and in the decisions you make throughout the day.
It's not about trying to change everything overnight. It's about bringing a heightened awareness to that one virtue and actively looking for opportunities to express it in your actions and your choices.
And to make it really practical, try to identify one small, concrete step you can take today to integrate that chosen virtue into your routine. Could be something as simple as really listening with empathy during your next meeting, or pausing to take a breath before you respond in a stressful situation.
That specific, actionable step is where the real change happens. It's that bridge between understanding these principles and actually living them out in your life.
Because as Coach Padalecki says, it's not enough to just understand these virtues on an intellectual level. The real power comes from defining what they mean to you personally and then consciously aligning your actions with those values. That's how you achieve true fulfillment and lasting high performance.
He calls this an ongoing journey, a process of forging excellence. It's not a destination, it's a daily commitment to growth and development. Every mindful decision, every act of courage, every moment of self-mastery, they all contribute to becoming your heroic best self, as Coach Pete puts it.
So as you go through your day today, think about this. Which of these virtues are you consistently prioritizing? And what kind of impact, maybe subtle, maybe significant, might that consistent prioritization have on your long-term success and your overall sense of fulfillment? That's something to really ponder as you continue to forge your own path to excellence.